This show is brought to you by Bosch Thermotechnology. Bosch's latest HVAC equipment offering includes the high-efficiency BGH 96 furnace, the new IDS 2.0 heat pump and air handler with efficiencies up to 20.5 SEER, and a brand new IDP heat pump package unit with efficiencies up to 19 SEER. Find out more about these cutting-edge systems by attending a Bosch webinar. There's links in the video description. Hey, let's break this down a little bit, really, before we get started too far, especially Brent, you, and Gil, since you guys are you guys are the guys here, okay? So Brent,
why has it got to be focused on Gil and I? This is a 5-man conversation here.
Okay, I will definitely jump in, which is what I'm doing right now.
Okay,
and the other guys will too. I just want to ask you what your sales process is. Somebody needs a new unit. Brent, what are you doing starting off?
Somebody needs a new unit. Basically, they just call me and say, I want a new unit. I go out to their house. We evaluate the unit and see what they have, of course, and then at that time I talk to the customer. I put some, I hear an echo there.
Yeah, that was me. I was getting the chat up and I forgot to turn it off.
No, and I put some options together. And while I'm at the house, because I have a bunch of pre-made emails with links and all kind of stuff together for different size equipment, different options, I put like a good, better, best option together in an email. I email it to them directly while I'm at the house. I make them pull up the email while I'm at the house. I say, hey, would you mind looking at it? Make sure you got it. Pull it up. They pull it up. Then I sit there and I give them a second to look it over. And I say, hey, do you have any questions? And they may answer 1 or 2 questions. And then at that point, I kind of can get a feel for if they want to do something or not. And if they don't want to do anything, it's like, okay, well, look it over. Call me back. Let me know how it goes. And I'll leave because I'm not going to sit there and pressure them into doing anything. But I know that's the wrong thing to do according to a lot of sales guys, but that's just how I do things. I'm not going to sit there and pressure them into it. So I leave, and then, probably 50% of the time, 40% of the time, 35% of the time, I get an email back, say, let's do it. Sometimes I don't hear back from them. But then I still email them back, even if I hadn't heard back, and say, hey, have you gone with somebody? And if you have, would you tell me why? Because it helps me get better, and that kind of thing. And 10% of the time I get them email back, say, yeah, I went with this guy, and this is why, kind of thing. So we get a little bit of feedback for that. But that's kind of basically how I do it, kind of really very no-pressure type stuff.
All right, Gil, why don't you tell us yours?
It's pretty much the same as him. Is when I go out, I get to the point where I know that their time is valuable. So before I go through and look through the equipment and do everything, the calculations, I have a thing on my it's not like a full-on load calculation, and I only do it if I think something is like way off. If you go into a house and it's not supposed to have a 150,000 BTU furnace or something like that, but I try to make sure that the stuff is right, and then I sit down and talk to them, ask them questions about, do they know what they want? Are they an informed customer? Have you done your research? Have you looked up different things? Most people don't. Some people do. How long they're going to stay in the house? How long they plan on staying there? That has a lot to do. If somebody says I'm leaving in 2 years, there's no point in offering them any kind of a efficient system because they're never going to recoup the benefits. Do they have some people you just flat out ask them, is there a certain price range that you were trying to stay in, and I'll price you up the best 3 options I can for that price range. Depending on the answers that I get, I used to leave and go out to the truck, and work up prices. And I stopped doing that. I literally have made a book where all the different systems I've conformed all the different matchups for the price that I need to sell it for, that I can't go lower than that and lose money. So, I'll do everything right at the table. I'll put, first, let me back up. Before I do that, I actually still do it on a piece of paper that on the top I'll put from 14 SEER to 21 SEER. And then I'll write down all these different options and I'll let them choose it, and then I kind of build it custom to them. I actually just learned that, and it works really good because it lets them tell you what they want. Most people don't want the best, they don't want the cheapest. But they can pick, if they want a 5-inch media filter or they want to actually electronic air cleaner, they want a humidifier. And then it's your job just to put it together and put a price on it. So that's what I've been doing a lot lately, and it seems to work really well. But before that, yeah, I would just, after talking to the person, getting them to answer a lot of questions, I do have like a list of questions that I ask, just that they're not mine. It's something that my owner has worked out over years. It's just good questions to kind of get a feel of the customer. And then I'll put together probably, 3 or 4 options that I think's best for them. We'll go over each one. I'll answer all their questions and go from there. Sometimes they're like, hey, I like this one, but that's too much money. And then it just kind of guides us in the right direction. So that's pretty much how it goes.
Okay, Beaver, what does your company do?
So basically, I mean, a lot of the same points that they just made. And Gil makes a good point, because I do the same exact thing. I used to always, after I had a conversation with them and I looked everything over and yada, 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 I would go to the van, and you're in the van for whatever, 15, 20 minutes building out options. And I learned, I don't think that's a good idea. For one, even if, even if there's good intentions there, it looks like you're not being transparent, I feel like. So I keep engaging with them. I run a sales call Friday. I stood there in the kitchen with the guy the whole time. While I'm building options, I'm having small talk with him. I have nothing to hide. I'm being completely transparent. And I try to be super thorough before we ever even start talking about money. I'm going to measure everything. I'm going to go over stuff with him. I'm going to, did everything work? Like Friday, that system was down. Somebody else had condemned it, this and that. And it was a 89 model Ream. I mean, rusted out, piece of crap. It needed to go. I was in total agreement with the other company that had been there. But I always like to ask them, when it was working, were you happy with it? Were you comfortable in all the rooms? You get a feel for stuff like that. And then I will slowly go into, building up options or whatever. I ask them if they have a brand preference, because some people are educated on that. And I give them options, and I explain to them the different options, what the benefit of each one is. And I let them pick. And like Brent said, I mean, sometimes you start going into that conversation with them, and you can kind of get a feel of, hey, they're not going to make a decision today, so you got to kind of got to be a people person and know how to read people a little bit of what's going on. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the same points that they made, maybe a couple little things different, but yeah, I think it was kind of right on point. I don't think there's a problem. I'm with Gil. I think there is questions you ask, like how long you're going to be in the house, things like that. And one of the things I ask is, what's important to you? Is it efficiency? Is it the cost? Is it dehumidification? What are some of the things that are important to you, and it'll help you build options out.
Yeah. Cost or the price.
But you know, guys, and this will sound like I'm on the other side of the fence a little bit here, but even if a guy tells me he's going to stay there for 2 years, I'm still going to give him the options for the I do a good, better, best thing for the better and the best option. I'm not going to tell him just 14 series good for you. Here's the options. You pick what you want, And some guys, like, there's a guy. He made apps. He made the app called Evernote. Like, it's a very popular app. And he lived in his house for 3 years, and he knew he was going to be moving, back to LA or somewhere else but he says, I want the best of the best while I live in this house. So I don't care what it costs, what's the price, let's put it down, let's do it, kind of thing. So I always want to at least give them that option on the paper, and they can go from there, kind of thing.